Okay, guys, here we go again. We're still in Unit 9, Polynomials and Factoring. Today is our second day on the topic of factoring. We will still be trying to find the GCF to write an equivalent algebraic expression. So yesterday, we practiced this, and if you understood yesterday, today is only a small step more difficult, and the difficulty level is that now your GCF can be a negative constant or variable term. So previously, we factored expressions like this one, 8a plus 12, where the leading coefficient was positive. Today, a little more challenging and only a little more challenging. We're going to factor things that have a leading coefficient that is negative. The process is the same, looking for the GCF, but today our GCF will be negative. So, as an example, we're going to do these two. The one on the left has a leading coefficient of positive 5. So, we're going to look at the 5 and the 10, and we're going to determine what is the GCF for 5 and 10. 5 is my smaller number, so I'm going to list the things that go into 5. There's only two things, 1 and 5, but 5 will go into 10. So, my greatest common factor constant term is 5. The first term has a variable a, the second term does not have a variable. So my GCF is just 5. 5 divided by 5 is 1, keep that a. And then negative 10 divided by 5 is negative 2. And remember from yesterday, whatever it is that we factored out becomes the thing at the beginning, or the factor at the beginning before the parentheses. So this is completely factored, 5 times 1a minus 2. Today, the thing that makes it just a little bit more difficult is the negative as our leading coefficient. So we don't want to leave that negative inside the parentheses. We are going to take it outside. So when I look at negative 4 and negative 9, and I start listing the things that go into 4. The things that go into 4 are 1 and 2 and 4. 4 does not go into 9. 2 does not go into 9. So the GCF is 1, but in this case, we're going to apply that negative, and we're going to be able to divide by negative 1. Then we look at a to the third and a to the fifth, and we can see that both of these terms at least have an a to the third power. So we're also able to factor out a to the third power. As I get ready, I do the same process. Negative 4 divided by negative 1 is positive 4. A to the 5 minus 3 is a to the second power. Then 9 divided by negative 1 is going to be negative 9. So don't be too quick to copy that plus sign in between. Do the actual division. It comes out to negative 9. And then a to the 3 minus 3. 3 minus 3 is 0, so I do not have any variables to come down with my 9. And then I put out front as the factor, the GCF, negative 1a to the third. So I'm going to take this negative outside the parentheses. I'm not going to leave it in here. So my GCF this time is negative. Okay, let's look at that a couple of more times. And I've got 3 similar expressions on this page. So I'm going to work out the 12 and the 18 first, and then I won't have to repeat that. So 12, the things that go into 12 are 1, 2, that's not going to show up dark enough for you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 12. And the other term is 18. Well, 12 does not go into 18. So 12 is not my GCF, but 6 will go into 18. So I am going to divide by 6. This is a positive 12, so I can just divide by 6. And then they both have at least one A. This one has 4 A's, this one has 1 A, so they both have at least one A in them. So the 6A is going to be at the front of my parentheses, the first factor. And then I'm going to do my division. 12 divided by 6 is 2. 4 minus 1 exponent gives me a to the third power. Negative 18 divided by 6 is negative 3. And a to the 1 minus 1 is 0. So there are no a's to go with my 3. Now this is slightly different. I've got a negative leading at the front. My terms are still the same, 12 and 18, so I'm going to still use this 6 as my GCF. However, it's going to be a negative 6 because my leading term is negative. If your leading term is negative, then your GCF will be negative. This still has at least one A and at least one A, but my answer is going to be slightly different because my question was slightly different with this negative at the beginning. Instead of being quick to copy the plus and the minus that look like they're in the front, you need to actually do the division. Negative 12 divided by negative 6 is positive 2. A to the 4 minus 1 is a to the third. And 18 divided by negative 6 is negative 3. And a to the 1 minus 1. Now you'll notice what's in the parentheses looks the same, but my GCF on the outside is what is different on this one. One last time, we still have 12 and 18, so I'm still going to be able to use 6, but because my leading coefficient is negative, my GCF will be negative. They both have at least one A in them. So my GCF is 6A as the factor on the outside of the parentheses. And then do the work. Negative divided by negative is a positive. 12 divided by 6 is 2. Positive 2, a to the third. And negative divided by negative is positive. 18 divided by 6 is 3. And then a to the 1 minus 1 leaves me no a's in here. So this is the first problem out of all 3 that we actually have a plus in the parentheses. But you'll notice that the 2 that had a leading coefficient of negative have a leading factor that's negative. So if your first number is negative, you will have a negative GCF. And if your first number is positive, as all of our problems were yesterday, then your GCF will be positive. So this is a look back to yesterday, and this is what we're going to be concerned with today. So practicing again. On this one, I can see that my leading coefficient is negative, so I know my GCF is going to be negative. So maybe I come over here and I say 10 and 25. My smallest number is 10. So I'm going to say 1 times 10 and 2 times 5. And then 3 and 4 go between here, but they don't work as factors of 10. So this is the list I'm going to think about. Will 10 go into 25? No. Will 5 go into 25? Yes. 5 is my greatest common factor. But because my leading coefficient is negative, my GCF is going to be negative 5. Negative 5. I'm also going to look at my A's. This one has 5 A's, 3 A's. So they both have at least 3 A's. Then it's the same process, guys. Look at the terms before you decide if it's positive or negative. Negative divided by negative is positive. 10 divided by 5 is 2. A to the 5 minus 3 is a to the second. And then 25 divided by negative 5 is negative 5. Again, don't just copy that plus sign. Do the work that's indicated. A to the 3 minus 3 is 0. So there are no A's to come down with my 5. And don't forget, your first factor outside the parentheses is the GCF. Okay, another one to practice. Once again, we have the leading coefficient that is negative, so we know our GCF is going to be negative. This one's a little bit different because we've got our leading coefficient is a 3, negative 3, and this one does have something in front of it. Don't forget that the number 1 doesn't have to be written in, so there's an invisible 1 right there. 1 is our other factor. Well, 1's the lowest. The only thing that goes into 1 is 1. Does 1 go into 3? Yes. So we know part of our GCF is going to be 1. However, because our leading coefficient is negative, that's going to be a negative 1 for our GCF. Then we see that x to the third has 3 x's and x to the second has 2 x's. So they both have at least 2 x's that can be factored out. And then nothing has changed. The process is the same. We're going to do negative divided by negative, which is a positive. 3 divided by 1 is 3. And x to the 3 minus 2 is x to the 1. Then we have another negative 1 divided by negative 1, which is actually positive 1. And x to the 2 minus 2 is x to the 0. So we do not write that down. We don't write x to the 0. No x's come down. But don't forget to put your GCF as the factor outside the parentheses. Now you will head on over to Delta Math and complete your problems for today. Remember, if you have questions, raise your hand. If you are learning from home, you're going to send a message or get on Zoom to ask for help.